Hi, this is John Solari, the host of The Method Actor Speaks. I didn't know if the show was on, and we don't script it. And today we have, pronounce your name Robbie Coatney, is that right?
Rob Coatney.
Rob Coatney.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob. Now, I've been asking you to come on the show, and you gratefully said yes finally.
And I'm glad to be here.
Okay, now tell us a little bit about you. What you do, how did you became, you're a manager, personal manager.
Well, I've been a personal manager off and on for about 15 years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How I got started as personal manager is I ran into a talent agent named Ruth Webb.
Ruth Webb, sounds familiar.
Yeah, she had a web agency. She handled primarily, people like Gene Barry,
Right, that's
Lonnie Anderson, and so forth back, and Aretha Franklin, and so forth. And she was running. I ran into her at the Roosevelt Hotel back in 1992.
92.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to move over here. I just want and listen to you.
Okay.
You can get a better view because I know you got some photos there, and we want to see them when you get going.
Will you be able? Okay.
No, I mean no. Let's keep talking about how you met these people.
Well, actually, Ruth Webb. This was a crazy story. One of the craziest stories. I first got in this business back in early '92. I was at a Roosevelt Hotel. They were having a Marilyn Monroe look-alike contest.
Uh-huh.
I was taking pictures, and all of a sudden this guy comes up. He has a hat on, pulled down over his sunglasses. He says, this is a true story. He says, you take pictures? I said, well, yeah. And he says to me, would you like to take a picture of a seance? I said, a seance? He said, yeah, this was just before, just before Halloween of '92. He says, yeah, I own the Rosewood Hotel. And we're going to contact Houdini tonight. I said, oh, interesting. He says, would you like to come and take pictures? I said, okay. So I went, took pictures. It was an interesting night. And I went to work for this guy. And he was, found out he was an agent. And he was a nut. I hate to say it, but he was a nut. One day I was out running around doing things for him, and he calls me and he says, you gotta get back to the office, gotta get back to that call. And I come back to the office. So here I am, I'm in a t-shirt, dirty jeans, and he says, and he comes running down, jumps in my car, and he says, we got to go to my bank and you're going to be my lawyer. I said, what? He says, you're going to be my lawyer. And I said, Richard, I said, there's no way they're going to believe I'm a lawyer. He says, well, you are going to be a lawyer. So we go to this bank and he tries to pass me off as his lawyer, and there's no way they bought it. Anyway, make a long story short, he was a nut. He was a nut. And we were doing a thing for, he arranged a thing for the R Gang, a reunion of the R Gang family. And ostensibly it was the 100th anniversary of, it was Hal Roach's 100th birthday. And ostensibly it was our gang, and he arranged it at the Roosevelt Hotel. So we were doing things there, we were getting ready for it. And all of a sudden, he goes off to see that things are getting set up, and I'm sitting there. with another friend, Gene Lachero, who used to be a cinematographer. He did cinematography for Around the World in 80 Days in the 50s, got an Oscar for it. And all of a sudden, this gorgeous woman comes walking up. Blue dress, white gloves, and so forth. And she's introduced to me by the maitre d', the hotel. And she says, "Hi, I'm Ruth Webb." And we start talking, and she sits down. We're just charming us. She's talking about her, whatchamacallit, she's going to have. Her autobiography that she wants to try to get published. This agent was also a literary agent. So he comes walking back. He stops about 10, 15 yards from the table. He gets a strange look on his head. Face starts rubbing his thing. And then he comes over and he says, "I know you." And I says to him, I said, "Richard, this is Ruth Webb." He says, "I know who you are. You're here to steal my clients." And he made such a, he called the maitre d' over, wanted her kicked out of the, and she's, kicked out of the place. She's here to steal my clients and so forth. And Ruth was very calm. And finally she says, "Normally I don't do this, but, she looks at him and says, she gives him a finger and said, "F you." And she goes over and sits on the next table. And he's running around like a bangy rooster. "Well, I want him out of here, I want him out of here." And the guy says, "She has a right to be here." Well, Ruth had given me her card. And I felt so bad about the way he treated her that I called her up that night. And we got to talking. And she said, "Well, why don't you come over tomorrow and we'll talk business. We'll, let's see what, I'd like, see if you can help, I can help you," something like that. I told her, so forth. So I went over to her place in Mount Olympus area. Very nice, beautiful house, and we talked and so forth. And she said, basically this guy's an asshole, and that she'd like for me to come work with her. And I said, "Well, I have to give him notice and all that stuff. I felt it was right," so forth. He was an asshole, I knew it, so forth. But so she said, "Well, think about it." So I went back and I went into the office, and he went off on me in front of a client. And I told him, I said, "That's no way, you don't talk to me in front of a client, anybody like that. I don't care who you are." And he said, "Get out of here." I said, "Don't worry, I'm out of here, bye." So I went to work with Ruth, and I started helping her as best I could and so forth. And then we started, then she decided, she already had 2 agents, sub-agents, and so she came up with the idea of starting a management agency. And so we started it up. Then she got hit. She got in a bad car wreck, and I did the best I could for her. As I said, I've been doing it off and on for 15 years, helping people as much as I could. But never haven't really gone where. But I tell you, I've met some great people, and I think I've given good advice to people over the years. And I know there's a few people that have gone on to other things and so forth. Anyway, so that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, okay.
Were you an actor or anything like that before?
No, I was never an actor. I've never really been
In show business?
No, I never desired to be in front of the camera.
Really?
I've always wanted to be a power behind the camera. And as I told my clients, tell my clients when I work with them, I said my desire is to see you up on stage getting an Oscar, an Emmy, or whatever, and then saying thank you to me, you know. But that's the way it's been. But one thing is, you know, this thing has led to meeting some fantastic people, like you were saying, Joyce Lynn, that was just on your show. If I hadn't taken the chance and gone with Ruth Webb and so forth, I probably would never met you, Joyce Lynn and so forth. Anyway, but as I said, over the years I've met some wonderful people, and I've gotten some. This town is really an incredible town.
I know Francine York speaks very highly. Did you represent her too, or just friends?
Yeah, Francine and I are very good friends. We've known each other. Actually, I met Francine at Ruth Webb's Christmas party in 1992. She was there with there was Theodore Bickel.
Another fine actor.
Yeah, Mort Saul. Edie Williams, as it showed in the pictures, and what was his name? Marvin Page,
who just passed away, right?
Passed away, casting director. It was a great party, and of course, on the other end, we had, well, Bobby Blake was there also. I didn't recognize him. But it was a good party, so I met Francine there, and Francine and I have been very good friends for the last 22 years, and so forth. And you talk about the commensurate beauty and actress, that is Francine. I mean,
she is. She's that movie star quality.
Yeah.
And she can act.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
She's not given that. I think a lot of it hurts her is the beauty, and her beauty that stands out. And it interferes with people believing she can act.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I call her. My nickname for her is One Take York, cause that really all it takes is one take.
Really?
I have seen her take a script, study it for a few minutes, and do it flawlessly. I have seen her also take scripts that are not worth the paper they're printed on and turn them into very, great scripts. And she can set design, she does everything. Yeah, she is something else. Yeah, she's beautiful and intelligent, hard worker.
That she is. I mean,
yeah.
She's not given the credit.
No, she's not. She's not given the credit because she refused to play the games in this town.
Right.
So forth. Like she went on an interview for a TV series, and the casting director says, well, I only cast people that I sleep with. And she said, well, I'm not interested in a role that much, to do that. Yeah. And he says, you're not the type, you're not the right type for the role anyways.
Yeah. Right.
And so she walked out, and then, so forth. But she's really, she's extraordinarily talented, beautiful, and.
Can I ask you if that was recently, or was that a long time ago?
It was a while ago.
Because I just wonder how much of it goes on today, the same thing. I would imagine it does.
It does. They say that Hollywood has changed, and for some, it has changed in some ways, but basically, the old casting couch is still out there.
Yeah.
Except that it's kept under the carpet. I mean, so forth.
Well, it always was, and
it always was, will. And it always will be. There's always, it's not just a.
It's just a shame that you got perverts casting directors and agents, and
Yeah,
they need somebody to,
that's true.
they can't get it on their own, so they have to. You know, it's sad. It's sad human beings. that
It's
do that.
sad, but it's also sad because there are, let's face it, there are people that come to this town that will do anything to get
Oh, that we know.
rolled. I mean, I really wasn't much of a man, I didn't have much of an influence as far as being a manager goes or whatever, and I was trying to strive and so forth. But I actually had two gals who wanted me to represent them, who told me, hey, anything you want, and I knew what they meant, and I said, hey, thanks, but if you can't act, you can't sing,
Yeah.
you can't dance, you're no good for me, no matter how good you are in bed.
It's true.
So forth. Anyway, so I got started. Well, me and Ruth started the management thing, and then she got badly injured in an accident, and that kind of put a crimp in things. And as I said, I've been doing it off and on for years, and I've met a lot of great people.
Who are some of your favorites? I know
Oh.
everybody wants to know the ones you don't like, but I like to know the ones you did like.
I tell you, there's I have a picture right here. I don't know.
Okay, let me put it up and I'll zoom in there. Let me just get there a little higher.
Higher.
There we go. A little towards, right there. That's from, what's his name? From,
This is Vincent Sherman,
right, from,
famous director Vincent Sherman. He died in 2006. This is his house, and many of his posters that he posted up in his home in Malibu and so forth,
oh,
up near Pepperdine University, so forth. Did you get a shot?
yeah, I got it, we got it.
Yeah. Anyway, he's one of the most brilliant men I have ever met in this town.
Really?
Warm and friendly and so forth. I met him through Francine. She was primarily, they were extremely good, close friends and so forth. But even though he was in his 90s, he was as sharp as a tack. And some of the stories he told about in Hollywood back in the 30s and 40s, so forth, are incredible, So he was so sharp at 98 years old that if you asked him the first movie he ever saw, or what movie made most impact, he told instantly. He said "Birth of a Nation" by D.W. Griffith in 1950. And he talked about being,
Did you talk about what kind of impression?
he was impressed by it.
I mean, but why? How?
Just the sheer the visuals, the battle scenes and everything and so forth. It really made an impression on it. Plus the way it showed the South after the Civil War, so forth. And he was troubled by its depiction of
the racism and
what happened. But then he went out and he was from a place called Athens, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And he went out and he met people that were in their 60s and 70s that, lived during that time period.
Right.
Who said, a lot of things that were depicted in the film really happened. And, during the Reconstruction and so forth.
Right.
But it left an impression with him. But it also made him want to become
A director,
an actor.
an actor, director.
Then he stumbled. Then he went and he became. He came out to Hollywood and started out doing little things. And then he finally got to work as a titler for Warner Brothers. That's what they called people that did printed up the words on cards for the silent movies.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we call them titlers. And when they switched over to sound,
The talkies.
they kept the title for script writers. You know, and for
right.
a while. And he worked as a script writer, and he worked.
So what they were. That they turned into being script supervisors.
Script writers or scripts, so forth. Anyway, he was brilliant. He was brilliant. One of the things he did for Warner Brothers was he read books, and if he found a book that he thought was good, he passed it on to Jack Warner. Said, hey, I think this should be a good movie. This would be a great movie. And in 1940, he read a book called Everybody Meets at Sam's Place. And he read it. He loved it. And he went to Jack Warner and he said, Jack, you got to buy this property and make it into a movie, and I want to direct it. Well, Jack Warner wasn't that interested in it, so he passed it off to 20th Century Fox, passed it off. So, 2 years later, it comes out as Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. And he wanted it. Also, so forth. But he also, and the funniest, I don't know how long.
Go ahead.
One of the funniest things, he became a director in 1939. He directed 4 films starring Humphrey Bogart, And this is one of the funniest stories. 1943, he was directing a film, All Through the Night, with Humphrey Bogart. In the film, Humphrey Bogart is a Sam Spade type in Private Eye, and he's trying to find out who killed this newspaper stand owner. And consequently, he finds out that it's a bunch of Nazis, and they're planning to sabotage the wharf and all that, and so forth. Anyway, they were filming the movie, and Jack Warner would always come down to the set. Was coming down to the set because the movie was a little behind. It was behind and over budget, and Jack was coming down saying, "When's it gonna be done?" And Vincent said, "Don't worry, Jack. When it gets done, it's gonna be worth the extra money and time." And finally, one day, Jack Warner came down, and they got into it. And Jack Warner said, and Jack Warner says, "You're fired, Vincent." And Vincent had before had said, "Oh, go kiss my butt," or whatever,
Right.
And Jack would leave or whatever. But this time Vincent had it. He said, "Okay, that's it." He called it off for the day. Said, "Everybody go home." So everybody went home. And instead of going into the set the next day, Vincent stayed home, drinking tea or whatever, and so forth. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone rings. So he picks it up. and it's Jack Warner. Jack Warner says, Vincent, where the hell are you? And he says, I'm home. I'm sitting here drinking tea. So what the hell you doing home? I got hundreds of people sitting around on their ass down here, costing me thousands of dollars, you know?
Uh-huh.
And he says, well, that's your problem, Jack. You fired me yesterday. He says, God damn it, Vincent. I fire you once a week. And he says, I know, but I'm through with it. I'm tired of your coming down on all this bullshit, you know? Says, and there's a silence. And Jack says, Vincent, what do I have to do to get your ass back down here? And Vincent says, Jack, it's going to take me 15 minutes to get down there. And I'm going to leave right now. And if you're on that set, when I get there, I'm just going to turn around and leave, and you can get somebody else to do the movie. And he says, if you're not there, and you come back on the set before I get this damn movie done, I will walk off and you'll have to finish it with somebody else. Do you understand? Do not come and so forth. And Warner says, fine, slams down. So he got in his car, drove down, got back on the set. Warner was gone. You didn't hear from him for the rest of the movie. You know, the movie came out, was one of the top hits of 1943, made Warner's a ton of money and all that stuff. And that was one of the funniest stories, Jack. But another thing about Vincent. Before he died, they were doing a series of movies, a series of interviews for his movies that were coming out on DVD, which Francine organized and helped. Francine put everything together. She's a great organizer, you know, so forth. And they were talking about his movie, The Hasty Heart, which they were doing a thing for The Hasty Heart, which starred Ronald Reagan, Patricia Neal, and I can't remember the guy that got an Oscar nomination for it. God, I can't remember his name. Todd was his last name. Anyway, they were talking about it, talked about it, and at the end, the people that were doing the interview, the guy asked him a question. He said, Vincent, what in your opinion is what in your opinion makes a great director? He says, problem solving.
Problem solver.
Problem solving. And the guy says, what do you mean? Says, when you're a director, you're constantly solving problems. One problem leads to another problem that you have to solve. And he says, the better you are at solving problems, the better you are as a director. And he says, that's the same way with life, isn't it? Now here he is, 99 years old at the time. And he's saying, the better you are at solving problems in life, the better life you have. So the same thing is with being a director. The better the problem solver, the better the director. So I was good at solving problems, so I was a good director. And that just blew my mind when you said that, you know. Then he was very impressive. He went down like that, just in about a month. I seen him about a month before he died. Still clear as a bell, mentally still active. Then he all of a sudden just went down, and that was it. You live to be